not sure I'm ready to fly a plane for me at the moment.
Another 18 years.
Nearly there. It's just head straight through, you can't miss him. Probably at Mach 0.6, which doesn't really mean very much. That's what it is in miles an hour, doing 463 miles an hour. This will increase, depending whether we're accelerating or decelerating, or going up. So this will increase right up to Mach 2.02. In miles an hour, that's 1,354, which is 23 miles every minute. It's a mile every 2.7 seconds. That's actually faster than the Earth rotates, which is interesting. You could do some fascinating things with Concorde. Before it came along, the flight time from London to New York, its main destination for 27 years, was 8 hours. Concorde basically halved that time. Scheduled time was 3 hours and 50 minutes. In practice, 3 hours 20 minutes would get you to New York or back. It holds a world record, fastest ever crossing from New York of 2 hours, 52 minutes and 59 seconds. In practical terms, what it meant was, because of the 5-hour time difference, you take off from Heathrow at 10:30 in the morning, arrive in New York at 20 past 9 in the morning. So you got to New York an hour and 10 minutes before you left London. Which takes a bit of getting your head round. Business people loved it. There's 100 seats on the aeroplane. On average, 80 would be occupied by businessmen, businesswomen. They loved it because you got to the JFK airport, as I mentioned, shortly after 9 o'clock. You could be in downtown Manhattan by 10 o'clock. You're doing the deals. You're active. no jet lag because of the short flight time and the high pressurisation on the aeroplane. You arrive in really good shape. So a good day's work, a good night's sleep, ready for a good day's work next day. If all you needed was a couple of hours in New York to do that important deal, you could do something you just cannot do today, and that is take that morning flight out, arrive about 9:20, spend 3-4 hours in New York doing the deals, take the afternoon Concorde flight back home, arrive in London just shortly after 10 in the evening, New York and back in a day. Of the 80 business people on the aeroplane, typically 16 would travel to New York and back same day. So it wasn't an uncommon thing to do. Some people did it, not now and again, but every week, sometimes 2, even 3 times a week, just part of the normal working life. Sadly, when Concorde retired, those people then had to fly out first class to New York, stay overnight in a nice 5-star hotel, come back first class next day. It's a hard life, isn't it? As you're flying today, will climb up to maybe 42,000 feet. You'll see this go up to 56,700 feet. Concorde could climb anything up to 60,000 feet, half as high as you can fly commercially today. The reason for being so high was actually 2 reasons. If you've got your nice shiny whatever it is doing 560 miles an hour and your Concorde doing 1,350 miles an hour, 100 miles behind it, you're going to quite quickly catch it up, and you can't just move around it to overtake because there's aircraft all around every aircraft. So you can't actually mix supersonic and subsonic flights. By being above 50,000 feet, there's pretty much nothing up there. That is your airspace. The big plus is that the air up there is cold and thin. You'll see it's already minus 35. By the time you reach the top altitude, the cruise altitude, minus 57 degrees Celsius. And that's really important because the limiting factor of Concorde speed wasn't the engine ahead of you are moving out the way. You actually reach the speed of sound and you have a wall of air on the tip of the nose. You push your way through that wall of air to continue accelerating, and then the air, instead of smoothly thrown around the aircraft, actually being stored on the outside skin. That causes friction, friction causes heat. So at minus 57 degrees, which you'll see again when this disappears, this is distance to go, how far away from you are from your destination. At minus 57, the temperature on the tip of the nose could be anything up to plus 127 degrees Celsius, purely caused by air friction. That's the limiting factor. You reach that temperature, you have to slow the aeroplane down to keep it safe. Reason? Well, it's made of metal, the aircraft's going to expand. So at that temperature, it would be 20 centimetres, 8 inches longer than it is on the ground today, purely caused by air friction. So quite challenging. So up at 60,000 feet, looking through these small windows, which are small for technical reasons, there's not actually too much to see. Clouds and other aircraft are literally miles below you. What you could see was the curvature of the Earth. Imagine a distinct bend on the horizon. The sky wasn't blue, it was a dark, inky blue sky. You could make out stars in the daytime. Imagine you're sitting in the office looking out the window, which is what the pilots on the flight were doing. Across the horizon, 800 miles. That's pretty much the length of the UK. And in terms of area, there's 250,000 miles just spread out in front of them. They could see the weather systems, the big swirls of cloud heading our way as we cross the Atlantic. But imagine you sat in these nice comfy seats, enjoying a cold glass of whatever you fancy. You put it down for a moment when you realised, well, the only people travelling higher than you were the astronauts in the space station. It's a very special place to be. It doesn't come cheap. There's always a downside. If you're going to save time, it's going to cost you money. So back in 1977, when British Airways opened the flight from London to New York, a one-way ticket would cost you £431. By 2003, when the aeroplane retired, that same ticket was £3,800. A return, just over 7,000, and to get to New York and back same day, £6,500. The people that did that basically were big earners. So if you're earning millions of pounds a year, £6,500 once, twice a week to get to New York and back is nothing. All tax deductible, of course. Do we have any questions? Just shout up. No? Okay. So Concorde was really of its age. It happened because British and French governments were determined to make the countries great, but it was very challenging. The ideas for Concorde formed in the 1950s. Believe it or not, the design was 1960s. The aeroplane was actually constructed in the 1970s. A comfy seat. To get the money, we're talking over £1 billion in 1970s money to produce Concorde, to get that money back to invest in the future. But sadly it didn't happen. And a very simple reason why. The 2nd of March 1969 was the flight of the very first Concorde. 4 weeks before that, Boeing flew the 747, the jumbo jet, for the first time. So the airlines that were looking to buy Concorde had a choice. Do you buy an aeroplane that's going to carry 100 passengers at twice the speed of sound across the Atlantic, or do you buy one that's going to carry 400 passengers, 560 miles an hour, anywhere in the world? And the answer is, you buy the jumbo. So all the orders for Concorde were cancelled, and the governments, British and French governments, who paid for the aircraft, basically encouraged Air France and British Airways to take them. They got 7 each. They've already built 6 test aeroplanes to prove that it could be done. So in total, there was only ever 20 made. So it's a very rare aeroplane. Anybody been on a Concorde before?
No.
So when they retired them, what they did, they decided they wanted people to do what you're doing today, to enjoy them. So British Airways said, who would like a Concorde? We've got 7, we're going to place 6, so tell us why you'd like one. There were 850 applications, some serious, some not quite so serious. Fred with a big garden, love a Concorde at the end of it. Didn't get one. So they ended up putting one up near Edinburgh, so that's in a museum. Sadly that wasn't modified post the Paris crash. It was 26 years ago this year, 25th of July. They had to actually take that aeroplane to pieces, so chop the wings off and the tail, load it on a trailer, take the trailer down to the Thames, onto a barge, up the Thames, up the North Sea, to the Torres power station, then across land to the museum. And they put it back together again. It's really nice. Lots of other aircraft up there to see. They placed one here, one in Bristol. Well, one had to go to Bristol because that's where they assembled the British Concordes. They kept one at Heathrow. So the plan with that, British Airways were looking forward to their new terminal, Terminal 5, that was due to open 2008-2009. So they basically gifted it to the airport authority on the premise it would go outside the terminal on the roundabout. If you've been to Heathrow, it's just outside. The airport decided they didn't really want it. So the aircraft is stuck at Heathrow because that wasn't modified either. So it sits now on big land. They can't put it on airport land, so basically they move it around. They use it for training apprentices and basically staff open days. So you might catch a glimpse of it as you're flying out of Heathrow. One went to New York, its main destination, for 27 years. One had to go there. That sits on a barge next to a rocking great aircraft carrier, the USS Intrepid. Really nice. You can have a tour of that one. One went to Barbados. Its winter destination. Flew there usually between November and March, once or twice a week. And it's really nice. It's in a hangar. They used to do tours on it a couple of years ago. They wrangled with the money, so they stopped doing the tours. It now still sits in the hangar. If you're on a cruise, you fly into Barbados Airport, you go into the hangar to check in for your cruise. So that's the only way of seeing that one. And the final one went to Seattle, which is a very unusual place for Concorde because it only ever visited on charter flights. Seattle is the home of Boeing. They've got several factories there. They've got a really nice museum, the Museum of Flight. Every Boeing aircraft, commercial airliner, is there. So you can actually go and see those. They wanted a Concorde because back in the 1960s, they tried to build a Concorde equivalent and failed, having spent $1 billion. So it's there to show what, if you persist and you've got the money, you can actually do. So it's just a nice addition. Air France placed their aircraft in different sites. So there are different ones at the Paris airports. There's one in Toulouse, one in Washington, its first destination, it's the States, and one in Sintheim in Germany, which again is a really strange place to send one, but basically it's on the roof. So it sits at that angle and it sits behind the T-144, the Russian T-144, the Concorde scheme. It's the only place in the world you can see both aircraft together. So if you want to go and enjoy them, there's a challenge. Anybody any questions? Do you have any questions?
Why did they build it?
Why did they build it?
Yeah.
So you need to go back, it's quite a long story, I'll keep it short. Post the Second World War, Britain, France, America and Russia were all looking to become dominant people in the aviation market. So the idea was build a supersonic passenger aircraft. The question was how, because it had never been done before. So they got the best brains, they formed a committee, they worked out how they could do it. By the time they'd done that, early 1960s, the French were doing the same. We put the aircraft side by side, all the plans, they looked pretty much identical. The physics was driving the shape and the performance. So we signed up with the French to actually do it, open-ended contract, whatever it cost, we would do it. Which was probably as well because it was crazy money. I mentioned £1 billion in 1970s money, well 1960s money actually. That's a lot, and that's at least 4 billion in today's money. And you only got 20 aircraft. So the simple answer is to make Britain great again. I should get a hat with that on, shouldn't I? Any final questions?
How long did it take to get to Barbados?
Barbados, it was on the limit of its range, so 4 hours. Initially what they would do, take off from Heathrow, go to Shannon, refuel, and then onto Barbados. Coming back, because you have the wind behind you, you could do it in one hop. But they worked out a way of doing it by being clever with the fuel. So then you could go direct and come back direct. So the limit of the range was 4,100 miles. So it's got to be a little bit careful. They did have plans for around the world flights. They did lots of charters around the world. Not in one hop, they would literally do maybe 8, 10, 12 hops. Just a couple of days in each place. You wait usually for about 3 weeks. So it was a really great experience. It only took, on average, just under 35 hours to fly around the world on the Concorde. That's with stops and refuel. So, incredible achievement.